In this demonstration, I want to go through what happens when we slash a pattern. When I say slash, I mean we cut the paper pattern and then we open it up. So I've got the sleeve block here. I'll demonstrate this on sleeves to start with. And I've gone and traced the block off a few times, and so I can use the paper patterns for cutting. I don't want to cut my block up. Now I've just copied this straight off. I haven't added any seam allowances because at the moment I'm at the stage of, let's say, playing around with my sleeve to see what shape I can get before actually making it into a pattern. And when I say a pattern, that means that the seams have been added and it's ready to go onto the fabric to cut out. So at the moment I've got the block in paper, and this sleeve has no gathers in it. It sits absolutely straight and it comes down to the wrist. But if I fold it over, it sits square, and that's the sleeve. So what if I wanted to put some gathering in the top of my sleeve? I would first of all cut through. So if I cut, I'm going to cut straight along this grain line that takes me up to the shoulder notch there. And I'm also going to draw a line at right angles. Because what you want when you're making a sleeve is you don't want it to twist, and so you want either side of the sleeve to sit square. You see how the underarm point sits on top of my set square here, so it's level. If I had something like this, and this sleeve came, this armhole came down to here, I would be absolutely twisted. You see how my set square has been twisted off at right angles, no longer at right angles to the grain. So if I went to put that a sleeve together that was like that, it would be all twisted like this, and you can even see in the paper it doesn't sit right. So it's important that we square off our sleeve. It's important that we square off each pattern piece, but at the moment we're working with the sleeve. Now if I cut from the shoulder point all the way down, or slash, if I slash, I need to slash right to the edge. And if I was to open that up like that, and on another piece of paper then join my sleeve head, this becomes solid. I would copy it out onto another piece of paper like this. So I'll be making a new pattern. I'd want to make sure that this line running at right angles to the grain stays on, let me just draw a line in, stays on these lines, which are squared off. So if I was to open that up and that came down to the line, this one also needs to come down to the line. That way I know that the grain line, which now runs central to where I've slashed the pattern, I'm still sitting square here. So when I fold it over, the sleeve will sit nice and flat. It won't be twisted. Now I could open it like that, and that would give me, and then I could draw around it, and that would give me my shoulder point is there, quite a flat head to the top of my sleeve. So if I was going to slash this sleeve open to put gathering in the top, I would probably slash it 3 times minimum. And when you slash something, or cut through, it has to go out to the edge in order to allow movement. And I'll just put it on the green again so you can see it against the background better. If I was to open this up, You see how everywhere I've opened it up, I'm adding fabric in. So this has all become fabric. And as I open this up, you'll notice that along the bottom here, it's slightly curving. But that's no problem, because as I then, on the machine, gather in my gathering to the top of my sleeve head, this will straighten out naturally. So that's if I wanted to put gathering in the top of a sleeve head. I need to add more fabric in because I need to gather it away again. It's no good taking the sleeve like this and thinking, oh, I'll gather this, because if I gather that along with a thread and pull it in, this becomes smaller, so it won't fit the armhole anymore. I have to open my pattern up first before I can then gather away the fabric. So what might be another way that you might want? What if we go the other way this time? So say I want to keep the top flat, but I want my sleeve to come out in a real big cuff at the bottom. That way, I would have to slash the opposite way. So I'm now going to open up the pattern from the cuff, which means the cuff is going to be gathered or pleated or tucked, but I'm putting more fabric into the bottom. And I'm opening up the wrist here with more fabric. Now if I take this line here as squaring it, there we go, I must have grey line down the centre, square it off so that the two underarm points here don't get twisted. And now I've put gathering into the wrist and I've kept the sleeve head the same. But what happened there was when I opened this up, the sleeve head, not the sleeve head, but the underarm raised. So you've got a sort of flatter, you haven't got such a steep sleeve head going on there, it sits flatter. But when this gets all gathered back on the machine, of course you get your sleeve head shape back again to put into the armhole. What if on this one I wanted gathering at the bottom of my sleeve, but I wanted to keep the top quite fitted, because on where I opened up for the wrist gathering here, you can see that across here, across the bicep, extra fabric's gone in there, so it's actually got bigger across the bicep of the sleeve as well, so everywhere's got added fabric in there. What if I wanted to keep it sort of fitted here and then suddenly go out into a wider sleeve near the bottom of the arm? Well, I suppose I could draw on like this. I could just extend. I could keep this the same and then extend out for the wrist. But that means that all the added fabric that I've put on is here, which is underneath the arm, because this is the underarm seam. I don't want that, I want it to be more even. So if I take another little block here, say to about that point, I wanted this to fit. I don't want to move anything there. So I'll slash up like I did before to open up the wrist into gathering. I'll just slash it as far as the line. So just like I did the last sleeve. Now I want to open this up to put gathering in my wrist. And I don't want to move this because I want to keep it nice and fitted at the upper arm. But the paper's not allowing me to do it. I can't do it. It's fighting, it just won't. Because when you slash, you have to slash out to an edge. And this is what I mean. So the top of the sleeve stays the same. And then now I can open these up and they sit flat. Yeah? Let me just put these on top here to weigh that down. Just weight that down. So that's still running square, and I'm opening up the wrist, so this stays the same. It fits nice and neat over the upper arm, and then it goes out into this flare of fabric, which will get gathered into the cuff. But you can see that wherever I've opened it is extra fabric, so it means I've got extra fabric here as well. So suddenly the sleeve has got longer in length. Now that's no bad thing when you're gathering around the bottom of a sleeve that's full at the wrist, because it gives it more puff, makes it more puffy and fall over the cuff. Now if you don't want that, if you want it to sit flat, then you need to straighten off your pattern here and take this away. I don't suggest that because I think it will make a strange sleeve. But the only thing you can do is to cut your pattern. So I would now place this on paper, draw around it, possibly add a seam allowance, because I want to cut it out in some calico and sew it together. And I would just check. So everything I'm doing in flat pattern cutting, no matter how experienced you are, I think it is a wise decision to make your pattern and just check it out. If you're not 100% sure on the shape or how much fabric you've put in, check it out by cutting it out in calico or fabric similar to what you want to use for your finished garment, and check out that you've cut the pattern how you want it to be. And it's at that stage, once you see it in 3-dimension, that you can alter what you need to alter and then alter the pattern accordingly. So whenever you slash and open, you're adding fabric in. And whenever you slash, you need to take it out to the edge of your pattern in order to allow it to open. And working with a sleeve, you need to make sure that either side of the underarm point mirrors the other side, so it stays square. You've got the grain down the middle and the underarm stays square. If I was to take this little bit that I cut off here and wanted to make a short sleeve, I could cut all the way through. I've got a little sleeve, a short sleeve, and if I wanted gathering at the top of the sleeve head and at the bottom, because it was going into a cuff around the upper arm, I would open my pattern out like that. So I've elongated it. If you open it just here in the centre, you think, well, why can't I just do one slash and open it like that? As I say, you'll get a very flat sleeve head here, and you won't get any shape difference here, so it's uneven. Now here, I can start to make a nice sleeve shape. I want to follow that, maybe raise it up a little bit, bring it back down, and you get a much nicer sleeve shape. So there's some ideas about putting extra fabric in, whether it's going to be gathered or pleated or tucked or pin tucks or whatever way you want to get rid of the excess that you've put in. You need to slash your block shape and open it up.